Good morning, siblings. Farmer Dar here. Happy Bibs Day. It's a wonderful morning out in the backyard. At the time of this video, it's mid-ish June, actually almost mid-June, and it's a fine early morning, a great morning to do some work in the backyard before the heat of the day makes it too unbearable. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my experience of installing a Rainbird drip irrigation system. So far, I am happy with the results. However, I'm only half finished installing the system. Hope you enjoy this episode on installing a Rainbird drip irrigation system. I chose this system for a combination of price and what appeared to be availability of parts, because I have a feeling I'm going to have to replace bits of this irrigation system at different times. So what I want to show you now are a few tools that I'm going to be using to install this drip system. Alright, so first off, I keep a pretty sturdy pair of scissors, some lightweight pliers, and then there's this tool. This tool turns out to be almost essential to installing a drip irrigation system. It's a bit of a clamper, and one part will cut your hose or tubing, and then another part will puncture it with a hole so you can insert a drip line. Now, the whole point of installing the drip irrigation system is so if we want to go out of town for a weekend, we can. So I found what I thought was a good battery-operated timer that has two spigots, so I could run two lines off of it, and you can time the water to run periodically on two separate lines. Attached to one line is a converter, a 25 psi regulator that regulates the water pressure to 25 pounds per square inch, and then a connector at the end where your tubing connects. Coming off of that connector will be half-inch tubing. I've cut a small piece to show you, and it's this half-inch tubing that can be cut with this tool. So this half-inch tubing is your main water line off of the spigot, and it gets a good amount of water at 25 pounds per square inch to any location where you run the line. Now you can connect that half-inch tubing with elbows. I purchased far too many elbows. Anywhere you can do a soft turn in the tubing, that's awesome. However, there's going to be times in your tubing where you need a hard right angle, and so if that ever happens, you don't want your tubing to become crimped. That will obstruct flow, so a right angle connector is very important there. Half-inch tubing connectors that are just straight across if you just want to connect one tube to another tube. And then today we're going to use some of these, the T's, where you split it three ways. There are some landscape spikes you can purchase to install your tubing, but I found my landscape staples that I already had around were perfectly adequate for the job. Now these staples are not for the heavy-duty half-inch tubing. This heavy-duty half-inch tubing is going to be attached in different places in ways other than using stakes, because it's going to be an elevated system to keep it away from Luna. These here staples are for 1/4 inch tubing. So this here is 1/4 inch tubing with drip lines, in this case spaced 6 inches apart. Every 6 inches in this tubing is a place where water will drip out at a rate of 1 gallon per hour. And then here is some plain black 1/4 inch tubing. In the front, I had to use some white 1/4 inch tubing. That is not ideal because the translucent tubing will allow bacteria to grow and algae to grow inside the tubing. This black tubing is more ideal. The black tubing and the brown emitter tubing will tap into your 1/2 inch tubing and take water to specific locations with specific flow rates. Now, I have some small connectors and emitters to control how much water goes to different locations. In black is a 1 gallon per hour emitter. In red is a 2 gallon per hour emitter. The pointy end goes into a punctured hole on the 1/2 inch tubing, and then the other end connects some 1/4 inch tubing to take water in a controlled manner to specific plants and locations in your garden. Now, sometimes you need to connect your 1/4 inch tubing in a straight line or in a T. I over purchased these, so I'm going to be returning some of these. However, you might need to split off to distribute your water in different directions through the tubings, and these are helpful. Sometimes you're going to puncture your 1/2 inch tubing and make a mistake. So these are called goof plugs. So when you puncture your 1/2 inch tubing and you make a mistake, you can plug it up with a goof plug and keep on rolling. Woo! Okay, well, I have been at it a little over 2 hours installing the 1/2 inch line for the water. Okay, so basically I thought about the skeleton of the entire irrigation system, and I ran a line that would provide the backbone for all the watering that needs to be done in my backyard. Now I'm ready to show you the framework that I put in this morning for the drip irrigation. Here at the spigot I have a timer because the whole point of this drip irrigation is that I should be able to go somewhere. It's just a double triple bonus that it helps me with my chores. So here's the timer, and from the timer there's a pressure regulator and then an attachment to the 1/2 inch hose. This attaches very easily. Maybe wear a pair of gloves so you can get some good grip, and it goes in just fine, and then a twist cap holds it tight. The 1/2 inch tubing runs down behind our air conditioners. All right, and now I'm going to pick up at the gate. Now I'm on the other side of the air conditioners that are still covered, and there's some culvert here for our gutter. And under the culvert is that 1/2 inch line. Here I chose to do a nice hard right angle up the fence post, and to keep it away from Luna, I've done an arch over the gate, back down to the other side, and again attaching to the opposite fence post with an elbow. And now I've run this 1/2 inch line all the way down the length of my yard, attaching it from post to post. Behind the wood pile on the other side of the kennel, you can see that I continued the 1/2 inch line down the fence, and I have 2 T's over here. Here's one T that feeds up into the pergola. The 1/2 inch tubing above Luna's head, around the top of the pergola, and I can do a drop down to a pot. Continues around the top of the pergola, and I can do a drop down to some more pots, and then around the top of the pergola back to the fence. I'm back on the outside of the pergola at that last tee, following the 1/2-inch tubing down my fence posts. You can see that there are 3 arches going up high and then over to a green stake, delivering a line to each of the 3 beds. So let's follow this first one. Here's the line. This one goes down, and I've got a tight elbow, and I ran the line all the way across the tomatoes, and it will be giving some water to tomatoes. And now I ran the line up the sturdiest tomato stake to another arch, to another sturdy tomato stake. Watch out, Luna. And this line is coming to the potatoes. I put an elbow in here, and I've run a line all the way down the length of the potatoes. Now I'm at the other end of the potatoes where I have a dead end and a flush cap. So I can pop this cap off in the winter and flush it out and make sure that no water's in there. For each of these pots, I can tap into this line and deliver drip irrigation to each pot. Here's a second arch that feeds down into the middle bed that right now is full of chard and Brussels sprouts. Here's the third arch that feeds into a bed of tomatoes. Looking good tomatoes. You look like you need a little water though. And here's the end hose where I hope to put some emitter line to water this back asparagus bed. It's so hot. Luna's conked out under the potatoes. You sleepy girl. Yes, you are. You good girl. What I've done so far is I have put emitter tubing on 3 beds. And emitter tubing is this brown stuff. I got the 1/4 inch. Every 6 inches there's a little segment here that drips water at the rate of about 1 gallon per hour. And there's copper inside that hole, so if roots go near that, the roots touch the copper and then they stop growing because of that metal there. And what I do is I tap into the line with one end of the emitter tubing with one of these little couplings. So the pointy end of the coupling goes into the 1/2-inch tubing, and then the other end goes into the 1/4 inch tubing. I run the amount of emitter tubing I need, cut it off at the end, and plug the end with a goof plug. While I had the camera cooling and turned off, I went ahead and I put little drip lines from this main 1/2-inch line to each of the pots. And basically what that is I grabbed some of this 1/4 inch plain tubing and put a gallon per hour drip at the end of the tubing. And then, I don't know if you can see, but I used my little tool to puncture a hole in the 1/2-inch line. And then I pop that in and adjust the tubing. I pin it down if I need to, but this one doesn't look like I need to. And I adjust the tubing so it'll drip right into the plant. I also plugged in to the 1/2-inch line in the pergola and ran it down to these 2 big planters. And here's drip tubing, and these planters also run up and tapped into the pergola. Good morning! Hello siblings! If you're still with me in this video, thank you for hanging in there. So I am just about finished installing the drip irrigation system. I did this morning go ahead and finish tapping in the last of my potted plants for this drip irrigation system. I have a bale of straw that I'm going to go ahead and lay around my tomatoes this morning after I tie them up a little bit, and that straw is going to hold that moisture in a little better. I've run the timer overnight and it seems to have done very well. So I'll probably tweak and experiment having the right amount of time. Now I'm going to give you a close-up on what I did with this corner and a little demonstration about the drip rate. Okay, so first thing I did is I tapped into this corner with a T. At first I wasn't going to put one here, but when I thought about the number of feet or meters of drip line it would take to tie all of these pots into this main line, I thought now's a good opportunity to go ahead and put a T in and extend the line down along the dog kennel where Luna cannot get it, and do like a little dead end here. Now at the dead end I got something called a flush cap, so I can take that cap off at the end of the season and let all the water out of the system, and then just leave the system in place with no water in it, and so having this on the dead end is important. You'll see I have little emitters in the 1/2 inch tubing, and these little emitters each will give a drip rate of 1 gallon per hour. I'm going to follow the tubing all the way down to this far pot, and you can see the tubing disappears under the mint. Mint grows pretty quickly, so I won't see the tubing here very long. I'm going to pull the tube up and let you see. This is what the 1 gallon per hour drip rate looks like. So water, due to gravity, is going to drip downward toward the center of the Earth's mass. However, I can count on capillary action to distribute the water within the pot laterally, meaning toward the sides. This one drip line will water this one large pot effectively. This is a good method for irrigating established plants, a root system that is already developed at least an inch or so deep. Go get your toy. Where's your toy? You have a toy? Do you have a ball? Do you have a ball? Nope, that's my glove. No, mine. Where's your toy? Is that your stick? Is that your stick? Do you want pet pets? Do you want pet pets? Yes, you want pet pets. All right, nope, you gotta get pet pets. Pet pets. All right, go get your ball. Go get your ball. Where is it? You got your ball? You did it! You got your ball! Over here at the potatoes, you can see that I have the drip line in here too. And again, a 1 gallon per hour drip rate. And I just let that drip right onto the soil surface. And with the potatoes, I had a little straw. So this straw will slow evaporation from the surface of the soil. So the lateral motion of the water in the pot is pretty effective about an inch deep from the soil. If I put my finger in here, it is about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch down that I start feeling soil moisture. By putting this straw here, I slow the evaporation from the surface of the soil, and that keeps a little bit more moisture in the pot. Now, here's the deal, especially with things like peppers and my tubers, I want that water deep. So when I feel the side of the pot, I can feel moisture. And in fact, down here, I can actually see it dripping. Here I covered the drip line by the tomatoes and peppers with straw, again, to slow evaporation from the surface of the soil. You can also see that I trimmed the bottom leaves on all my tomato plants and started the staking. The reason I trimmed the bottom, ends up being about a foot or so of leaves, is to keep the tomatoes from getting fungus from the soil. When it rains, soil will splatter up onto the leaves and bring with it bacteria. By doing drip irrigation, having a little padding of straw and trimming the base leaves, I'm going to have healthier tomatoes. So I finally got the last of my drip line in around my Brussels sprouts. They are going to be so happy because it has actually been a couple of days without rain. And while a little bit of time without rain is fine to develop a nice deep root system, I think they were getting thirsty. Okay, I'm back after a coffee break and a coffee spill. So you get to see two versions of bibs that Katie made for me. These here are custom bibs that Katie designed for me out of a pattern. I found that while I love my denim bibs, I found denim to be too hot during the summer. It remains to be seen how helpful this irrigation system is, but if we plan on taking like a weekend trip anytime in the near future, which would love to do, certainly this irrigation system is going to be very helpful. I have friends and community members who help me when we leave, but wouldn't it be nice if they didn't have to worry about watering the plants? So it's a huge economic privilege to be able to afford this, and I'm very grateful to be able to do that. I'm hoping that the benefits will reap widely. That's pretty much the end of this video. If you're still watching, thanks for hanging in there. I appreciate your engagement. I hope what we're doing as a family is something worthy of sharing, especially in these troubling times. I really hope our videos bring you some measure of comfort. So if you enjoy this type of content and if you'd like to keep up with our story, please feel free to subscribe. If you enjoy this kind of content, a little interaction by clicking like would be very kind. We appreciate it. All right, siblings, so gonna say goodbye until the next episode. Be safe as you can. We're already losing valuable community members in tragic losses. It's a sad time right now where we really just want to hold on to each other. I hope we can all be at the end of this pandemic together. Black Lives Matter, get your justice, all right? Get your justice. Stay safe, build your community, strengthen your circle, because we're not done yet. Farmer Dar, signing out. Love y'all.